Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a tutor and two students discussing feedback on their presentation about AI systems in healthcare settings. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Right, let's go through your presentation on the implementation of AI systems in healthcare settings. First, can you confirm when you gave this presentation?
We presented on the 20th of January.
That's correct. Let's start with my overall impressions. David, I found your part quite informative. Thank you. And Sarah, I'm afraid your section was not detailed enough.
Yes, I was worried about that. I ran out of preparation time.
Now, let's look at your supporting materials. David, your design elements were good. I spent a lot of time on those. And Sarah, you had some helpful examples that illustrated the concepts well.
I tried to make the information more relatable.
I would suggest you reduce your supporting materials by about a third. There was simply too much information for the audience to absorb. I see. We did wonder if we had too many slides. Moving on to the technical aspects. David, I noticed your diagrams were not in color, which made them harder to interpret. Yes, we had some printing issues right before the presentation. And Sarah, you underestimated the difficulty of explaining some of the technical concepts to a general audience.
That's true. I realized during the presentation that I needed to simplify my explanations more.
I'd recommend more practice with the equipment before your next presentation.
Definitely. We had some trouble with the projector.
Now look at questions 7 to 10.
Now, let's discuss your aims and objectives. David, these were clearly defined in your section. I wanted to make sure everyone understood the purpose of our research. Sarah, your objectives were lacking. It wasn't clear what points you were trying to make.
I know. I should have structured my section better.
I have no further comments on this aspect. Thank you for the feedback. Regarding your delivery, David, your presentation was too rushed. Yes, exactly. You needed to slow down and emphasize key points.
And I know my part was difficult to coordinate. I struggled with speaking while changing slides.
That's right. You need to work on synchronizing your speech with your visual aids. I would suggest you need to practice more before your next presentation. We'll definitely work on that. Finally, let's talk about your overall scores. David, you received a 7 out of 10. That's better than I expected. And Sarah, you received.
Let me guess, lower than David.
Yes, you received a 5 out of 10.
I understand. I'll work harder next time.
That concludes my feedback. Do you have any questions?
Section 2. You will hear a talk by an outdoor survival instructor about essential survival skills and equipment. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our Wilderness Survival Workshop. My name is Thomas Bailey, and I've been teaching outdoor survival skills for over 15 years. Today, I'll be covering 3 essential topics: creating a portable solar oven, understanding water purification systems, and preparing emergency food supplies. Let's begin with how to create a simple yet effective solar oven. The first step is to find a suitable location that receives direct sunlight for several hours. Once you've found your spot, you need to position a row of bricks to form the base. These bricks will provide stability and help retain heat. After creating your base, place cardboard across the base structure. This creates a platform for your cooking container and helps with insulation. Next, you'll want to add reflective material to capture and concentrate sunlight. Aluminum foil works perfectly for this purpose. Before closing your solar oven, remember to remove any plastic wrap that might be covering your food container. This is important because plastic can melt and contaminate your food when exposed to high temperatures. Now, Let's talk about preparing food for your solar oven. You should line the cooking area with glass. This creates a greenhouse effect, trapping heat inside the oven. After placing your prepared food inside, cover it with wooden boards. This helps maintain a consistent cooking temperature. Finally, close the lid and place rocks to secure it, preventing heat from escaping.
Now look at questions 17 to 20.
Moving on to our second topic, portable water purification systems. These are essential pieces of equipment for any outdoor adventure or emergency situation. There are several types available on the market, but they all share certain characteristics. Two important features of quality portable water purification systems are worth noting. First, they can effectively remove harmful bacteria from water sources, making potentially dangerous water safe to drink. Second, most systems can make seawater safe for drinking, which is crucial in coastal survival situations. It's important to understand that contrary to some misconceptions, portable water purification systems don't work best in cold temperatures. In fact, most systems operate more efficiently in moderate to warm conditions. Additionally, many modern systems don't require electricity to function properly, making them ideal for remote locations without power sources. Another common myth is that purification systems need to be replaced after each use. This isn't true for quality systems, which are designed to be reused many times before requiring replacement parts or filters. Let's now discuss emergency food supplies, our third topic. Whether you're preparing for a camping trip or creating a home emergency kit, proper food planning is essential. When preparing emergency food supplies, I recommend following two key guidelines. First, store at least 3 days' worth of non-perishable food. This ensures you have enough supplies to sustain yourself during short-term emergencies. Second, choose foods that require minimal water for preparation. In emergency situations, clean water is often limited and better saved for drinking rather than cooking. Some additional recommendations that aren't as critical but still worth considering: including vitamin supplements with your emergency rations ensures you maintain proper nutrition during extended emergencies. You should also select foods that all family members will eat, preventing waste and ensuring everyone stays properly nourished. One final recommendation that many people overlook is to replace your emergency food supplies every 6 months. Even non-perishable foods eventually expire or lose nutritional value, so regular rotation is important. That concludes our overview of these 3 essential survival topics. In the next session, we'll be demonstrating these techniques in our outdoor practice area. Please make your way to the south entrance in 15 minutes, and don't forget to bring your notebooks.
Section 3. You will hear part of a lecture about factors for effective remote work. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be examining the findings from our 3-year research project on effective remote working practices. As many of you know, remote work has become increasingly prevalent, and understanding the key success factors is crucial for both organizations and individuals. Let's begin by looking at the major factors we identified for effective remote work. The first category concerns workspace considerations. Our research conclusively demonstrated that access to a dedicated workspace significantly affects the quality of work. Remote employees with properly designed home offices reported fewer distractions and higher quality outputs compared to those working from shared or improvised spaces. Moving on to our second factor, communication. Our studies indicate that regular communication is absolutely essential for remote team success. The data showed that consistent check-ins and structured updates were more valuable than occasional lengthy meetings. It's the frequency and consistency that matter most. Remote work requires clear channels for information exchange. While video conferencing has become standard, our research highlighted the importance of using appropriate messaging tools. Digital platforms designed specifically for workplace communication resulted in fewer misunderstandings and more efficient information sharing. The third major factor we identified relates to virtual collaboration. Remote work inherently involves coordinating with team members at different locations. Our case studies examined teams distributed across different countries or geographical regions, which presented unique challenges beyond simple distance barriers. According to our studies, effective virtual collaboration produces significantly higher productivity. In fact, we documented a 27% increase in output when teams implemented structured collaboration protocols compared to teams that approached remote collaboration more casually.
Now look at questions 26 to 30.
Let's move on to examine technology skills, which emerged as our fourth critical factor. Our data revealed that successful remote workers are willing to learn software. The most adaptable remote employees consistently demonstrated openness to mastering new digital platforms rather than insisting on using only familiar tools. Furthermore, these successful remote workers try to experiment with digital tools. The highest performing individuals regularly tested different applications and features to discover more efficient workflows and processes. The fifth factor concerns time management, which presents unique challenges in a remote environment. Our studies found that taking regular breaks is essential for maintaining focus and preventing burnout. The most productive remote workers implemented structured break schedules rather than working continuously for long periods. Effective remote workers also developed systems for prioritizing tasks, allowing them to focus on high-value activities despite potential distractions. Additionally, successful remote workers demonstrated an ability to set boundaries between work and personal life, which became increasingly important when working from home. Finally, let's examine the role of self-discipline in remote work effectiveness. While full-time office workers have external structure imposed by their environment, remote workers must create their own structure. This requires being mindful of potential distractions that wouldn't exist in a traditional office setting. Our research showed that successful remote workers are free of interruptions. They implemented strategies to minimize household disruptions during work hours and communicated clear expectations to family members about their availability. Furthermore, high-performing remote workers take responsibility for productivity. They actively monitored their own performance and made adjustments to their routines and environments when needed, rather than waiting for managerial intervention. To summarize the key findings from our research, effective remote work requires appropriate physical space, consistent communication channels, structured collaboration, technological adaptability, disciplined time management, and personal accountability. Organizations that support these elements see significantly higher performance and satisfaction among remote teams. In our next session, we'll examine specific implementation strategies that organizations can use to foster these success factors. Please review the case studies in chapters 4 and 5 before our next meeting.
Section 4. You will hear a lecture about recent technological innovations and their impact on society. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Today's lecture focuses on the findings from our Institute's comprehensive research into emergent technologies and their societal implications. Our analysis draws on both primary and secondary research from multiple international sources. Let me begin by discussing our methodology. We conducted a global survey examining attitudes toward technological adoption across various demographics. Interestingly, the global survey found similar responses across digital and in-person interviews, both averaging around 65% in terms of acceptance rates for new technologies. This consistency across methodologies strengthens the validity of our findings. When examining significant technological breakthroughs, our research consortium determined that the most significant innovation of the last decade was artificial intelligence, which had 80% of the expert vote. Other innovations like blockchain technology and CRISPR gene editing, while groundbreaking, received substantially less expert recognition as transformative technologies. To provide some historical context, the first functional AI system was theoretical and was conceptualized in 1956 during the now famous Dartmouth Conference. This gathering of mathematicians and scientists effectively launched the field of artificial intelligence as a formal discipline, though practical applications wouldn't emerge for decades. The healthcare sector provides a compelling case study for technological transformation. AI has transformed healthcare as from the 2010s doctors began implementing predictive analytics. This shift represents a fundamental change in medical practice, moving from primarily reactive treatment to increasingly proactive and personalized care models. Looking at the energy sector, we've observed remarkable growth trajectories. According to industry reports, renewable energy technology has grown by 22% annually over the past 5 years. This exponential growth has significantly outpaced projections from previous decades and signals a potential inflection point in the global energy paradigm. Urban infrastructure is another area experiencing profound technological disruption. Smart cities use connected sensors to monitor traffic, air quality, and noise to improve urban living. These integrated systems create feedback loops that allow for dynamic resource allocation and responsive policy implementations. Looking toward future developments, our research indicates that the development of quantum computing will revolutionize cryptography in ways we cannot yet fully anticipate. Current encryption protocols that would take conventional computers millennia to break could potentially be compromised in minutes once quantum computing reaches maturity. In the medical education domain, we're witnessing rapid adoption of immersive technologies. Virtual reality applications are increasingly being used for educational simulations in medical training. These applications allow students to practice complex procedures without risk to actual patients, significantly accelerating the acquisition of surgical skills. Digital security remains a persistent concern across all technological domains. Cybersecurity experts recommend changing passwords every quarter to maintain digital safety. This relatively simple intervention can substantially reduce vulnerability to common cyber attacks, though it addresses only one aspect of a comprehensive security protocol. Finally, regarding autonomous transportation, industry projections suggest significant near-term developments. The autonomous vehicle industry expects fully self-driving cars to become mainstream by the year 2030. This timeline represents a revision from earlier, more optimistic projections that failed to account for regulatory hurdles and public acceptance factors. It's worth emphasizing that technological advancement rarely follows linear trajectories. The interaction between scientific discovery, market forces, regulatory frameworks, and social acceptance creates complex adoption patterns that can be difficult to predict with precision. Our research has identified several cross-cutting themes that appear consistently across technological domains. First, public acceptance frequently lags behind technical capability, creating adoption gaps. Second, regulatory frameworks struggle to keep pace with innovation, leading to governance challenges. Third, there's an increasing tension between technological interconnectedness and privacy concerns. And finally, accessibility disparities risk creating new forms of socio-economic stratification based on technological access. In conclusion, we stand at a pivotal moment in technological evolution. The convergence of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and renewable energy systems is creating unprecedented opportunities and challenges. How societies navigate these developments will significantly shape economic structures, governance systems, and perhaps even what it means to be human in the coming decades. In our next lecture, we'll explore specific policy frameworks that might help maximize benefits while mitigating potential risks of these emerging technologies. Thank you for your attention. That is the end of the test.